Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're excited about this Sunday as we talk about faith skill number 1, hear. If you're not excited about helping our kids hear from God, then what's wrong with you? This is amazing. Hearing God speak is one of the most powerful things anyone can experience. So let's look at the lesson. Our life app this month is commitment, which means making a plan and putting it into practice. Commitment is needed for anything worth having, but this month we're focusing our commitment on what matters most, our faith. This week we head to Matthew chapter 7, where Jesus shares a parable about 2 very different approaches to building a house. One house was built on a solid foundation, while the other was built on shifting sand. And the wise choice is obvious. Anything built on a solid foundation is going to be stronger than one built on a foundation that's constantly moving and shifting. Jesus summarizes the parable by saying, anyone who hears my word and puts them into practice is like the wise man who built his house on the rock. The message is clear. A solid foundation in life begins with hearing and doing what Jesus says. Bottom line for this week is practice hearing from God. We can't do what God says until we know what God has already said. This week, we hope our kids discover that they can actually hear God for themselves as they put the faith skill here into practice. The first activity is called Listen to Me Relay, and it's an application activity, and all you need is a couple clipboards and a little creativity. And what you'll do is you divide your group up into 2 teams and have them line up in a single file line on one side of the room. And then take your clipboard or any object to mark the place and put those on the other side of the room. And these are going to mark the spot that the kids are going to run to and around and go back to. So direct the first kid to run from the spot in line all the way to the clipboard, around it, and back. And then to tag the next person. But when they tag the next person, they're to tell them a new way that they are to run to the clipboard and back, or run their race. It could be crab walk, hop, skip, bear crawl. They can get creative. But each kid is supposed to do it the way the kid tells them to do it. And explain to the teams that they're supposed to come up with a new way for each runner. So each time a kid comes back, that kid coming back tells the next kid a different way to run. Now, if a kid runs incorrectly, they have to go back and start over. If you think your kids might have trouble coming up with ways to run, brainstorm ahead of time some ideas. Then the first team to relay race all the way through their team and back is the winner. After the game is over, ask the kid a couple questions. What was the key to winning this game? It should have something to do with hearing and doing what the kid in front of them said. And then ask them, what did they learn about in a large group? They learned that they can hear from God. And ask them, what are the different ways that we can hear from God? Wrap up the activity by reminding them to grow in faith, it takes practice. Anything we want to get better at, we have to practice. And our faith skills are great things to put into practice. And today we talked about practice hearing from God. And the Bible and pastors and our parents, these are all great ways that we can hear from God. Our next activity is called Listen Up Verse, and it's our memory verse activity. And all you need is the Bible in front of you. And this is what you do. As usual with any memory verse activity, spend a couple minutes talking about the value of God's Word, how to find scriptures in the Bible, the chapters and the books, and how all that works. Always want to give a couple minutes to explain that. And over time, over the years, our kids will really learn how to use the Bible. But for this activity, what you're going to do is you're going to invite the kids to help you open up the Bible to 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8, and you are going to say the verse, and they're going to repeat it back to you. And we're going to do this several times. The first time, just have them all stand up and repeat after you. The next time, have them do something while they repeat it back to you, like jog in place or jumping jacks. And there's some suggestions in your binders. But you're going to go through the verse several times, having them do what you've asked them to do while they repeat the verse back to you. By the end of this activity, the kids might be a little winded, but they will know the verse a lot better than when you started. Wrap up the activity by letting everybody know that they all look very tired and worn out, and let them know that training the body has some value, but following and listening to God has value in every way. And remind them of the bottom line to practice hearing from God, and memorizing 1 Timothy 4:8 would be a great way to practice hearing from God. Our next activity I'm really excited about because we're going to be doing the same thing all month long, so make sure you pay attention. This is our Pray and Dismiss activity, and what you need is God Time cards. The God Time cards, they are a great way to put into practice what our kids are hearing on Sundays. The God Time cards are simply a 4-day devotional that goes over the exact ideas and principles that they just learned on the prior Sunday. As a leader, I want you to get behind this. I want you to get excited about this, because when our kids put into practice the God Time cards, their faith is going to grow. Their excitement about following Jesus is going to grow. It's impossible for it not to, because they're putting into practice what God says. As a leader, let's spend some time on this. Let's make this a priority this entire month of the God Time cards. And this is what you do. You let them know that you want to give them a great tool that will help them to begin practicing hearing from God. And then hand out a God Time card to each child, and as a group, go through day number 1 together. So you'll hand out the devotionals, and then you'll say, let's take a look at day 1. You can see that there are 4 devotionals for the week. A devotional usually includes a passage of the Bible to read, or a short paragraph that explains the Bible passage, and some kind of activity or prayer centered around that part of the Bible. Let's look up the passage for day 1 and complete it together. After spending a few minutes walking through day number 1, just encourage them that this is what you want them to put into practice the rest of the week. Practice hearing from God by doing exactly what you just did, but at home. This would also be a great time to let them know that you're going to reward anyone who brings back their completed devotional, if that's something you want to do. I personally will commit to making sure you guys have plenty of rewards. We have a lot more rewards in storage. Then close in prayer by praying that they would have the ability to put into practice what they've heard today. As you prep for this week, remember this leadership tip. Leaders can only reproduce themselves. In other words, we can only lead others to do the things that we ourselves are doing. So this week, work on your faith skill of hearing from God. After all, hearing from God makes everything better. We'll see you Sunday.